Hi everybody, this week we are going to be dealing with color management in InDesign. So let's do a little bit of talk about colors in general. So for print and most things we're doing for graphic design, we are going to be using the CMYK color space. So that C stands for cyan, M for magenta, and yellow is Y. And you can see that those all come together to make black. So when they say CMYK, think of the K as black. Unfortunately, one of the things that happens in print is when you put all of those together in equal number, the black is pretty ugly. So you have to add a little bit of black ink to make it an actual true black. So you'll hear people talking about in print, they'll talk about true black or rich black. That is the black that is created with cyan, magenta, and yellow ink, adding a little bit of black ink. So that is why it's called CMYK. So video and the web uses RGB, which is red, green, and blue. And you can see when they all come together equally, they make white. Now when we look at both of them together, you can see we have cyan, magenta, and yellow. And when you add those together, you get red, green, and blue. So these are all using the same colors. It's just what color space are we in. So yellow is yellow whether you're in RGB or CMYK. Now, CMYK in general is what we use for print, but there are variations of CMYK. So one way we can look at CMYK is called process. And that's meaning that, for instance, this right here, this color that it said, is created by making this much. So it's going to add this much black, this much cyan, and this much magenta, and it all comes together to make that color. A way to kind of look at it in InDesign or Illustrator is if you look over here, if you choose this color right here, you can say to create this color, they would use 0 cyan ink, 85% magenta ink, 0 yellow, and 0 amount of K. Now in RGB, they would use 255 red, 74 green, and 159 blue. It's still the same color. Now lab and HSB would be for the web, and then here are what you would call your hex numbers, which is what you would use to get that color for web. So you can see it's all exactly the same color. It's just what space was this color created in, what space is this color going to be viewed in. So when you think of CMYK, think of like original printing. They would add just, it would go through all these different printers back in the day, add a little bit of yellow, add a little bit of all the different colors. This is what we would call spot or PMS colors. And this is, instead of adding just a little bit of yellow, a little bit of magenta, they would literally go and get like a jar of PMS. For instance, I worked at Fox Carolina. Fox Carolina red is, 485. So if you wanted something to be printed exactly 485, you might say, I want to use PMS 485. So literally they go get a jar of ink called 485 and put it on there, so they're not processing together. So when you're dealing with print, think if they say process, they mean they're going to use a little bit of yellow, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. If they say spot or PMS, they mean they're literally going to go get PMS 485 and put it on there. And that's why you will see this Pantone, that stands for Pantone Matching System. So, like McDonald's has very specific PMS, it's 200 and something, I don't know exactly. So you could also get these little strips to see, is my color true? So that's what Pantone Matching System is. This, by the way, is the way web sees the colors. And, colors are colors. We all see the exact same colors, but they are, what color space are they in? So depending on what color space you're in, if you're watching this on a computer, you're in RGB. You are watching this on RGB. This is kind of a way of seeing colors. This, of course, is everything in this outer one is what our eyes can see. So you see that RGB cannot see every single color that our eyes can see, and CMYK can see even less. So if you create a color, if you are in these CMYK colors, and you create a color that is outside of this little line that I'm got my mouse on, you will be called out of gamut, G-A-M-U-T. Out of gamut, meaning that is not going to print correctly. If you are in RGB, if you're doing video, and you choose a color from way over here, it might look good to you, but it is out of gamut for RGB and it is not going to show up correctly on video monitors. So that's what gamut means. Here's another way to look at gamut. So you can see, yeah, there's the human one, and there's a bunch of different ways to see it. NTSC would be what broadcast standards are. And just to show you, this is Photoshop, for instance. This little warning right here is letting you know in the RGB color space that this particular red is out of gamut. And in Photoshop, you could just click right here and it would fix it for you. It'll probably knock it down a little bit because it's outside of the bounds of gamut for that color space. So hopefully that helps. Now let's get going with what we're doing for this actual chapter. So we need to change color settings before we start opening things. Realize that a lot of files will come to you already with a certain color profile, and InDesign needs to know, do we want to keep the profile that was with this file, or do we want to go back to what we already have on our computer? So you need to know what color profile things are in and which one we want to use. So go to Edit, Color Settings. And here is what it's asking you. So right now it's saying that my computer are not synchronized for consistent color and all kind of choices like this. As you become a graphic designer, you'll decide which of these you like best. We're going to set it up for the project that we're about to do. So right here, just put this on custom and make sure advanced mode is set up. For the working space, that's what it's going to default to. We need to change it to RGB Adobe 1998, and for CMY coded we need to do sheet fed coded version 2. Preserve embedded profiles does need to be on for RGB, meaning if we bring something in, we want it to just keep whatever was already there. That's fine. And we do need this, ignore linked profiles. We need to preserve the numbers that are already there. And we need to check all of these to turn them on. And the rest of these are fine. And let's go ahead and hit OK. We can now go ahead and start working on this week. So go ahead and say File Open, and let's go get our student files. And this week it's called CA Council. Make sure that's extracted and not zipped. And we're going to get the one called CAC Brochure. Go ahead and open this. And you see it's asking us, what do you want to happen here? Because remember when we checked our color profiles, we said, we wanted to update. It's asking us, yes, we want to update to our new color settings. And we want to adjust to match the current color settings that we have now. So that is what we want to do. Go ahead and hit OK. Now it's popped up again, and so the first one it was asking us about RGB. Now we're going to say what we want it to do with CMYK. Yes, we want you to update to what we have now, and said OK. And now we have the file that it's given us. Just think another designer has done this, and it wants we want to know, do we want to go with what they did or the settings that we have? And it's going to be different every time. So now let's go ahead and save this into our work in progress before we go any farther. File, Save As. Go find your work in progress folder. And I'm going to make a folder for this. I'm going to put my name on it, Roberts Brochure. So let's go up to Window, Output, Separations Preview. So I showed you how the old printing machine looked, where they would go through and put a little bit of CMYK, a little bit of magenta. That's kind of what we're seeing, like how is this going to print? So click on the separations, and it's separating this into all the different versions. Now you can see some of these colors in this design were created using process, using a little bit of cyan, so a little bit of magenta. And some of them were used with Pantone. So if I turn off everything but the Pantone, you can see this stuff here is going to be printed using a very specific Pantone color. This stuff here is going to be a very specific Pantone color. And we might be using something like, you know, McDonald's. They might say, I want my McDonald's yellow to be exact. When I go back to regular CMYK, you can see all of this other stuff is being created just using variations of cyan, magenta, yellow. So that kind of shows us what is going to happen with this when this is actually printed. And you can turn that back off, and that's just normal, but this is what's actually going to happen when it's printed. So that's teaching you a little bit about how the color works. Let's deal with how we can make some changes and if we're working together with other designers. And we're going to make some changes, but we want to be able to track this so we can see, you know, was it our boss that changed it? Was our client that changed it? So go up to Type, Track Changes, Enable Tracking in All Stories. Then let's go check our preferences. So go to Edit, Preferences, and go here to the Track Changes. So in Preferences, just find where it says Track Changes, and let's make a couple of changes here. So when we add text, we want it to be underlined. And for deleted text, we want to change the text color. We want to change the background color to red. So anytime anybody adds text, it's going to underline it. If you delete something, it's going to turn it red, just so we'll know that that is happening. Now, so let's say the client calls and says they need to change some of the wording, like every time it says some specific thing, they need to change it to something different. If you had a 1,000-page document, this could take you forever. So we're going to show you how to, you know, make some changes that it would do for the entire document. Let's say you're doing a book and the client changes the name of one of the characters. It can go through and find every time that character's name is changed and change it for you. So the client wants to make a change, so let's do this easily. So let's find an easier way to do this. So kind of scroll down here to right here where the word starts, and let's get our type tool and just click once right before the F where it says founded in 2001. Edit, find change, and we need to tell it what are we looking for here. So the client has changed the name of something. So we need to type in here City Parks and Recreation Guild. Now I'm going to tell you right now, I tried this twice and it wasn't working, and it's because I had a misspelling. So please make sure you have it spelled correctly. It's guild, not guide. And every time you see that, the client wants it to say Community Arts Council. So they don't want it to say City Parks and Recreation Guild anymore. They want it to say the Community Arts Council. So we need it to search the entire document, and it needs to go forward. So we've put our mouse right here at the beginning. We're going to say Find Next, and you see it found the first one that says City Parks and Recreation. We're going to go ahead and say Change. And let's find the next one. Here's the next one right here. Go ahead and hit change. And you can say change all if you want, and it's going to do all of the rest of them. So if you don't believe it did it, you can just go check, and anytime it saw that, it's gonna change it. So you're done. You can see how that would really be very helpful if we had a huge, long document. It would find every time we needed to change that for us. So you have just learned how to find and replace different words in your document. And let's go ahead and save our work. Control S. So now click off into the gray area just to make sure nothing is selected. I'm going to go back here, back up to the top. And let's go Edit, Find Change again, and deselect all this that we had last time. So make sure nothing's on there, and click this little button right here, which is going to give us all the kind of wildcards that are out there. We're going to go down to wildcards and say any character. Now you may need to click right here. If it says more options, click that to open it, or it may already be open for you. So right here you're going to tell it what we want it to find. So click specify what to find, that little click there. And go down here to character color. And we need to click on this Pantone 8001C. So we're telling it anytime you see a specific character that is in this color, I need you to do something to it. Let's go ahead and hit OK. So it's going to look for that. And what do we want to change it to? Let's click right here and go down to the character color. And we need to choose it black at a tint of 35%. So we're saying anytime you see a specific character in that color, I want you to change it to black of 35%. So now that we have all this set up, make sure this is on Document and say Change All. And it just found one. That's good. There is only one. If it says one, you did it right. Go ahead and hit OK. Now it's best practice to kind of clear this out when you're done so that you don't accidentally, because we're going to do another search in a minute. So go ahead and clear that out and hit Done. So now I just closed that, but really we need to open it again. So go to Edit, Find Change. And this time we're going to have it look for an object in all the document, in all the frames, and we need to tell it what we're looking for. So click right here. And we're looking for documents that are in a specific stroke of this gray 8001. Hit OK. So we're looking for objects that are gray like that. And then click on Object Format. Go back to stroke. We want to change the stroke to that 886. So what we're saying is when you find an object, I want you to change it from the gray outline to the Pantone outline, our stroke. So just say Change All, and you see there were 7 objects. You won't necessarily see them unless you go into the separation previews, but it's doing it. And we should go ahead and clear this out just because that's the best thing. You know, you should always do that, and hit Done. So it has made those changes for you. You probably have to open up the original to be able to see the differences, but it has made those changes for you. So let's kind of review what it has done. So get your text file. Let's go back up to the very first page. Get your text tool and just click once right there before Founded. And let's say Edit, Edit in Story Editor. And it's going to bring up this little thing. And do you see that it's kind of shown us the changes? Do you remember we told it what to do? We told it to underline anything that we added and to make things red. So you can see it showed the changes that we were making as it did it. So let's go up to Window, Editorial, Track Changes. So you can kind of click through this and it will show you all the times it changed it. So I'm going to click back to the very first change we made up at the very top. And if you read this, you can see this change kind of doesn't make sense. So it says founded in 2001, the Community Arts Council is pleased to announce its new identity, the Community Arts Council. Okay, that doesn't make sense. So this is the first time it's mentioned. We need to not have that change right there. So I'm going to click the right here to reject this change. And it's just going to put it back to, and that makes sense. Founded in 2001, the City Parks and Recreation Guild is pleased to announce its new identity, the Community Arts Council. So you can see how you can use this track changes and, to organize what's happening on the page. And when you're dealing with clients and bosses and all kind of people, this type of thing is really going to help you. So it deleted the new words, but if you look over here and read it, you can see it didn't put back the old words. And you can see they're crossed out, they're in red. So we actually need to say, no, I need you to put it back again. We need to hit X again to say, no, we don't want you to cross that out. And you can see it put it back. So this makes sense. Founded in 2001, City Parks and Recreation pleased to announce its new identity. So before you close this out, just click in the hamburger menu and say accept all changes in this document. Yes. So we can kind of close all this down. And this is ready for our print version. So we can go ahead and save this for print, and then we're going to make one that is for interactive and web. So say File, Export. Make sure it is on PDF print. We're going to go put this in our work in progress. And make sure this one is named Your Name Brochure Print. Make sure your save type is for PDF print. Hit save. All of this is going to come up. For marks and bleeds, we do want the printer's marks to be on and the crop marks to be on. But we're going to, and make sure the offset value is at 1.25. And then check Use Document Bleed Settings. Go right here to Output. And this is back to all of that color stuff. So we need to convert to destination. And our destination, we know this is going to be for CMYK, and this is the type of thing that would change depending on your printer. We're going to go up and say Document CMYK, US Sheet Fed. Do not include color profiles. We just want it to be pure CMYK. We're going to click the Ink Manager button. And then right here, do you see where it's got the little four? When it's got this little icon, it is saying that this color is going to be created with process. It's going to be used different versions. It's going to use a little bit of ink from all of the different profiles of CMYK to create the different colors. But down here, you see how it has a little dot. That means it is a spot color. So that is going to be pretty much impossible to print. Print shops either have to use CMYK or they have to use Pantone. They can't use both. So that means we need to switch these to spot colors, to process colors. So if you just click right there, it is going to change it from Pantone to the different variations. That means it's going to say it needs this much cyan, it means this much magenta. So go ahead and switch both of these to be processed. That is the only way this will work. And see, it says all spots to process. So a spot color, remember, is the same thing as PMS or Pantone. We're saying anything that is a spot, I need to use Pantone. I need to use process. Go ahead and hit OK. And hit Export. So our print version is ready to go. Now let's make a version that is interactive for the web. Go to Layout and say Table of Content Styles. And we're going to click New. So the style is going to be called PDF Contents and have nothing in this title, so just delete that. And go down on this list here that says Other Styles and choose Heading, and let's add that. Now go down at the very bottom and find Subhead and click and add that one. Now, so we've got heading and we have subhead. Click, make sure you're on subhead, and if you don't see this more options down here, you can just open this up. Mine was already open, so click that if you don't have it open. And just say we want subheading to be on level 1. And make sure right here, Create PDF Bookmarks is turned on, and hit OK. Then you can kind of close. We've already made this. So we've made our styles. Now we're going to finish it up. So scroll down to the bottom of this, and let's go to Pages. And you're on the bottom page. We need to add a brand new page, so just click the button here. So we have a brand new page, and go to Layout, Table of Contents. And here's that PDF contents that we created, and hit OK. Now, do you see that it has just kind of put this in here for us? It's ready to go. So just click once, and it's going to load the table of contents. It can go through and see all of the subheadings and all of that stuff for us. So it has made us a table of contents looking at everything we just did. So we need this table of contents to be here in order to make it interactive, but we don't want it to really print or being seen. So with this number 5 selected, right click on this and choose Hide Spread. So you see how it's got the little eyeballs turned off, so it's not going to actually show that, but we need it there anyway. So you have to have a table of contents before you can do any of this interactive stuff. Now let's go to Window, Interactive, Bookmarks. And you see it's already gone through and seen these are the main point. It can tell because of our headings what the main things are in this. So we've got the bookmarks open right there. We also need to go to Window, Interactive, Hyperlinks. I'm just going to put this one right here. So the first hyperlink we need to put, get your type tool and go to this last page, and you see here is the web address. So highlight that web address and click the little plus, because we need that to go to a hyperlink when somebody clicks on it, because this is going to be on the internet. And it pretty much knows what's going on. It's put that HTTP, which is correct. That is correct. We want all of this to look the same. So go ahead and hit OK. So that's actually going to work as a link now when we put this on the internet. Now let's grab that email address. Click the plus in the hyperlinks, but this time we need it to go to email. And you'll see it is changing. It's going to change the coding. And here on the subject line, it wants it to have regarding CAC spring brochure. So if somebody sends us an email using this link, it's going to put this in the subject line. Hit OK. And you can see we have 2 links that we've put in here. Now go up to Window, Interactive, and we're going to add some buttons and forms. And you can see mine opened right underneath my bookmarks. That's fine. So with your selection tool, select this little one right above name. That's where you would type your name. And we need to tell it what type of button is going to be here. We're going to have a text field. And change the name of this text field to name. Release on tap, but release on tap is fine, but we do need this to be required. And now we need to finish the rest of these. They're kind of self-explanatory. We're going to click on the address one. We're going to add a text field. This one's going to be called address. This is also required. This one will be city. Okay, you may need to zoom in a little bit here. We need to click just this little box right here before yes, keep me informed. And for that, we're going to add a radio button. And we're changing this to called add to mailing list. So we want it to look like that when you have clicked on it. Now just click away from it for a second. And you can kind of see what that looks like. Now let's click back on it again. And now that it's clicked on again, go over here in the layers panel. And let's see, you can see that it is selected right here, add to our mailing list. Go ahead and swirl that open. And you see it says normal on. And so it has the circle and then it has a square. So make sure that you have the circle selected. So I can tell because it's got a little blue. And I'm going to go over here and change this stroke color. So click right here next to stroke where it's got right now it's black. And instead of black, we want to change it to this 8,863. So it's that kind of magenta. Now let's go to the normal off version. And you can see it's over here, normal off. And we need to make sure that it is required. So they have to tell us, yes, do we want that or not? Okay, let's go ahead and save, Control S. So now we didn't finish these down at the bottom. So down here where it says, how did you learn about the Community Arts Council? Let's click on that box and we're going to add a different type of box to that. Instead of a text form, we're going to choose a combo box. We're going to call that source. So down here where it says description, we're going to create a list. The first one is direct mail. Hit the plus. So that's one of the choices they can make. Another one would be that they are a city employee. Next would be social media. Maybe they saw about this on social media. Email. Or a friend or family. Oop. So those are all the choices that are going to pop up when they click on this. And when you click sort items right here, it's going to put them in alphabetical order. Let's add one more that says select one. So now let's uncheck sort items because we want that one to be to the top. So select one should be at the very top. And now actually click that one to make it active, which means that's what's going to be in that box. It's going to say select one. So you have to click on that before you close this or this won't work. And we're going to try all this out in just a minute. Let's go ahead and save our work. And just so you can see what happens, I went ahead and just exported mine early just so you could kind of see what we just did. If you see down here when I click this, yes, I can add my name, blah, blah, blah. But when I click down here, do you see select one is already there? And then I can choose, yeah, I'm a city employee. So it is doing what we're saying. So now I'll go down and with your selection tool, select the one that says email. And we need to add a button to that. We're going to choose checkbox. And that checkbox is called send email. Go to normal off is the default. So it's normally going to be off. Once they click it, it's going to put that little check mark in there. So we want it to be normally off. So before you click away from it, make sure that you're selected normal off. And then let's do the same thing for this one. Select on the mail one. And we need to add a checkbox. And that one's going to be called send mail. Make sure to click normal off before you finish. And if you guys want to save it to see how it's working, just make sure that you save it as an interactive PDF and you'll be able to see if this is working. Or you can just wait until the end and see if it's working correctly. So make sure nothing is selected just by clicking off into the gray. And up here in buttons and forms, if you click on the hamburger menu, you can open up sample buttons and forms. And you can load more of these. You can save some that you've made, but those are just the basics that are there. Scroll through until you find the one that says I-24. It's right here. And we need to go ahead and drag that and drop it right here underneath where the mail and the UPS and stuff is. You can line it up with the margin and just drop it there. So while this is still selected, we need to tell it what this one is. So change the name of this button to Submit. And uncheck Printable, because we don't want that weird little button to be printable. So now this button had a default action with it, which was to go to a URL, and we don't want it to do that. So just go ahead and turn that off. We just want it to submit. So let's add a new action to it and choose Submit Form. So now click away from this so that it's not selected, but let's select it again. And we need to go to our Layers panel. And you can see here is the Submit button. So swirl that open and you see here's the normal way it looks. Open that again, and this top rectangle is what we want to deal with. So make sure that is selected. And we need to click on Fill right here. And let's change that to the Pantone color. That's more, looks like the rest of our design. Now while that is selected, I want you to grab your type tool and just click once inside that box that's selected and type the word Submit. Now it kind of looks weird right now. Let's double click on it and we need to add a style. Now we already have all these styles, so let's go to Window, Styles, Paragraph Styles. And we need to click on Button Text. So it should look like button text. But you can see it's kind of not, it looks good, but it's not in the center here. So right click on it and go to Text Frame Options. And instead of aligning it to the top, let's align it to the center. And hit OK. So with your selection tool, select that again. And you'll see that's what it looks like when it's normal. Now let's tell it what it's supposed to look like if you roll over it. So click on the word rollover and let's go over. And you'll see in the Layers panel under Submit, we now have two things. We have a new one called Rollover. So go to Rollover and choose that top rectangle. And let's change the color fill to Pantone, but this time at 70% tint. And don't freak out if your word Submit is gone. It's actually there. We're just covering it up right now because we're in the rollover state. So while we're still in the rollover state, grab your type tool and click once, and let's type the word Reset. Double click on that and let's make it button text again. Right click on it, Text Frame Options, and say Center. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what this looks like. Don't follow me, I'm just kind of showing you. I'm going to export this as an interactive. I'm just going to throw it in my delete folder. So you can see there it says Submit, and when I hover over it, it says Reset. Okay, let's save our work. Now before we're done, let's just make sure we left it on the right thing. So click once to get into that and go to the button state and make sure you've clicked on the word normal so that that is what's the active state when we print it. So make sure that that's on before you finish with that. Now the book doesn't really tell you what to do with this, but it's what do you think would happen? This one says reset. But if we were to click on this, it's just going to submit the form. Is that what we want? No. Let's add another action. And on here, it says clear form. So when they click this button, they need to clear the form. When they click this button, they need to submit the form. So make sure that one is selected because that's the one we want to default. And we are ready to save this whole thing. All right, we're ready to save this now. So save file, export. We need to go find our work in progress folder. We're going to call this Robert's Brochure Digital. Make sure you choose interactive as your choice for PDF. Go ahead and hit save. We don't want it, we do want all pages. Go down to compression and we need to make a few choices. Choose automatic. Resolution 72 is fine. Medium is fine. Go ahead and hit export. And it's telling us that we have a problem. That's okay. It's just saying that we created this in CMYK, but it knows it's going on the internet, so it is going to change that for us, and that's okay. Go ahead and hit OK, and look and see what you've got. So at this point in the book, it is now going to tell you how to deal with HTML. You can tell all of this HTML that you've created, you can export it as a CSS file and an HTML file. In fact, I'll show you where I did it right here. This is ready to be published to the web. Here is my HTML file for those of you who are in web design class who have taken web design. It does have my images all separated for me, and it does have a CSS file for me. You can absolutely do that, and you should do that. It's just very hard for me to grade it and turn it in. You would have to zip it up to send it to me. Then the next part of the chapter does teach you how to make an EPUB file, which you can create animations. Like here's a preview of my animation. So it is a great thing to learn how to do, but also very hard for me to grade because you would have to have an EPUB. We would have to open it up in an publisher. So everyone would have to download some type of EPUB, so that'd be very hard for me to grade. So I am not going to require you to do the HTML section or the EPUB section. If you would like to do them, the EPUB section, I would just do it as, you can turn it in as an InDesign file, but you absolutely do not have to. But this is important for you to learn, but it's just impossible for me to grade. So feel free to do those parts, and I hope you have learned a lot. InDesign it's got a lot of really good features. So do those parts on your own, but you do not have to turn them in for grading. So hope you learned a lot. That's the end.